Hello, everyone! Welcome to the Chaotic Wholesome Talk Show. We are off to a start today, let me tell you. Hey, Vivian, hey, crew, thank you all for hanging out. Welcome to the stream. I hope you're having a good old day. I am Kay Purcell. I am one of your co-hosts, but I'm here with David. David, who the heck is you? And what the heck is we doing here?
Hi, I'm David. You can find me on Twitter at FullRubberDucky. You can find me in other places in theory at FullRubberDucky. But more importantly, this is the Chaotic Wholesome Talk Show, where every week we get together and talk about TTRPG stuff. How to be a better player, how to be a better GM, how to be a better human being, because apparently that still needs to be discussed, all with a focus on intersectionality and inclusion.
Yeah, I don't understand how being a decent human is so challenging right now. But it apparently is, in case you haven't heard the interesting news. Candace, hello! How are you? Welcome on in. Hi, y'all. I am Kay. I'm a community manager, for now, in video games by day. And I do all sorts of TTRPG stuff by night. You can... So, y'all... It happened. It finally happened. I got my perfect foreign ditto in Pokemon. So there's going to be some shiny breeding streams, which is basically just going to be me like hanging out and talking while we wait for our Pokemon to make all of the babies. Like you do. Wait, you're on a break. You're on a break? Why is Candace on a break?
Because Candace has been working very hard all
That is fair. That is totally fair. We are so excited to have all of you. Thank you for hanging out. Not that it matters, but it does absolutely matter. And you all should know that Friday is Gilmore's 1-year birthday. Gilmore is a year old on Friday. I cannot believe it. He will probably show up sooner or later. You can find me, good gravy, when is the next one? You can find me on the 1st, on the Emergency Power Podcast. We took a 3 episode, which is a 6-week, wow. We took a break while some of the awesome people from the Emergency Power Podcast and a few guest stars played through the first book of the Skittermander saga, which is a free TTRPG Day adventure put out by Paizo for Starfinder. And hey, it's Jason. Welcome on in. So we've been on a bit of a break on Emergency Power, but we've still been recording. Y'all, I'm so excited for y'all to see what my absolute asshole of a disaster space queer has been up to, because wow. Yeah, there's character growth is finally happening. It took a while. It took more than a dozen episodes, but character growth is finally happening. And you can also find me coming up on the 8th. I will be doing my 2nd episode of Chalice the Twilight Road on the Initiative Order. In case y'all missed it, was it last week? Time is a weird soup. It's all, on the 15th this past week was my premiere episode. I'm playing Burton over on Chalice the Twilight Road. I'm like a mage rat on, we're using Through the Breach this season, and we're chasing down, some troublemakers and trying to make peace and just trying to be good folk. And that's kind of all that I have going on. Outside of the project, which, okay, is it working on here? I know it's working on video games. I'm waiting to see if Owen Wilson will say wow. So I was looking at this earlier, and I don't understand why it wouldn't be working. But it doesn't seem to be, does it? Unless it's a very, very long delay. Anyhow. David, we've been working on a thing.
We have.
For a while. And we've still got a lot of work to be done. Let's be fair. We got a lot of work to be done.
For anyone who ever envisions like working on projects with Kay, they are never small in scale.
No.
Because Kay dreams big. So be prepared to uh, to dig deeper and go longer.
But
And
also, like, you encourage. Like, let's be fair.
listen, you do it right or you don't do it at all.
We were working on a simple creature. I saw Pathfinder 2e and Ace on the same channel, so I clicked. Welcome on in, 741.
Oh my god.
I am Kay. I am the Ace part of this streamer. David and I are co-GMs, and we have run several campaigns, and I've been fortunate enough to be a player on all sorts of streams. I play in a Starfinder campaign on a regular basis, but David and I are in the process of learning Pathfinder 2e. I've only got to play in one Pathfinder one-shot, 2nd edition. Well, I'm not going to speak for David. I learned to play TTRPGs on Pathfinder 1st edition, which was an experience. So yes, this is a talk show. We talk about all things from indies to intersectionality. And David and I are kind of talking through our stumbling learning of Pathfinder 2e, as there is a lot of interest for it right now. And so David, I was kind of there's a couple things that we can talk about, and a lot of what we spend time here talking about is honestly the difference between Pathfinder and D&D 5e, because most of our audience is very familiar with 5e. Forever GM, welcome on in. David's a Forever GM, though I keep occasionally dragging him into.
Listen, it's not so like there are many Forever GMs who are just like, if I'm gonna play D&D, I have to GM, I gotta put it together, I have to run it, or else no D&D, no tabletop gets played. I am not that person. I have enough people who are interested in having me as a player. I've been invited to tables, and I fully plan on taking people up on these invitations once the bulk of my TTRPG work with Kay is done. Yeah, that's the other thing, is like no one else wants a GM. And as I've said many times on this channel, and many times at people in person, because apparently I rant about things, if you have not been a GM,
You should do it.
go do it.
You should do it.
If you feel like you are intimidated because other people have more experience playing the game, or have been GMs, or have been your GM, go do it. If you're worried about keeping track of plot lines and keeping track, we have a note keeper at our table, who is Kay. We have a rules lawyer at our table, who is Kay. And we have a disaster queer at our table.
What you fucking talking about, sir? I don't think I'm a rules lawyer.
No, not in a bad way, but whatever.
Okay.
Well, I should say a rules reference.
Okay.
Because whenever I'm like, wait a second, okay, you did this, like, are you out of actions? Can you do? And Kay will be like, yeah, that's actually like a thing you can do. And I'm like, okay, I don't have to look it up. Great.
And if you've never been a GM, you should absolutely try it, because it's awesome. You should also not do what I do and like stream your first GM experience, because I mean, you can.
I mean,
but you shouldn't.
If you do as well as Kay did her first time, then you're ready for the big leagues. But also, so like, when you're GMing for the first time, like when you're planning, a couple of things. One, make sure that everybody's on the same page for the type of game you're playing. Because if you get, since 1984...
GMing since 2nd edition, Red Box back in 1984. That is hella impressive.
Yes. Like 17 different jokes, like old person jokes, like sprung into my head.
No.
But I'm not gonna do it.
Sit.
But so if you plan a GM, well, if you aren't planning a GM, plan a GM. If you are planning a GM, then a couple of things. One, make sure that you're all, yeah, make sure that you're all on the same page about the type of game that you want to play, because sometimes people just want to sit down and do a dungeon crawl. They're like, I want to bash the goblins and get a thing at the end. Sometimes people are like, I have a meme character. I just made the craziest combination of things and slapped them together, and I don't know if it's gonna work or not, but let's go. And like, other people want a, like, not serious per se, but like a dedicated long-term campaign where there's character growth and there's a big story arc, and so know what you're getting into, and K qualifies for most of these. And the other thing is, know that your players will break your campaign. I don't care if it's just one session. It will get broke, and it's perfectly okay to say to them, listen, we're gonna have to stop because I don't have anything for this. Kay has done this to me. Other people in our party has done this to me. I've done this to GMs where they're like, actually, Kay and I both did this to GMs, where we sparked and then evaded a civil war. No, not a civil war, but a war between two factions.
Yeah. We there was a war that was gonna happen. Like, it was gonna happen, and we were supposed to pick a side, and we said, oh no, heck, both of y'all. Lit the command tent of one on fire, started the powder keg that made the other thing come charging, then climbed up in the mountains and stood back, like, smoking and watching them kill each other. We're just like, nah, heck, all of y'all.
Yep. There was a bloody handshake, and there's a lot of
oh my
there's a
god.
lot going on.
Forever GMs who finally get to play are the most terrifying things in the world, because A, they have, like, again, stables and stables of characters ready to go who have just been, like, forming in their brains in multiple iterations, because it's like, ooh, maybe this session I'll get to stick this character into this setting. No, they didn't go there. Okay, well, maybe they could be an NPC in this setting. Nope, they avoided that town entirely. But then you get them in the session, and a forever GM has been used to running an entire world and outsmarting the entire party and just doing all of this. So when it's concentrated down to one character, it is just a freaking lightning, and it is terrifying and wonderful. And I have long said, I want to torture myself. I want to do the dumbest, worst thing I could do, because it would be so much fun and so wonderfully terrible. I want to GM a game for forever GMs.
Yep.
I want a game where it's like Matt Mercer, Brennan Lee Mulligan, Abria, maybe Gabe, just all of these forever GMs who always run games, who are going to get in and just completely destroy my world. And I just want to see how terribly they would destroy, and how by my fingernails I'm hanging on by the end of it. I will hate myself, but it would be wonderful. Hey JD, welcome on in. So yes, we are discussing today a little bit of Pathfinder, potentially a little bit of my Starfinder shenanigans, potentially a little bit of Through the Breach, because that is a fascinating system which uses cards instead of dice. But David, you played a barbarian in a streamed campaign of 5e. And we're not especially thrilled about your options in combat.
I am really trying to
Gaming trend.
remember. I had erased that campaign from my brain. Yes. So, it's there's a name for words that are brand names that become the stand-in for the thing. So like instead of a photocopy, it's a Xerox. Instead of a tissue, it's a Kleenex. And inevitably, or Q-tip. Q-tip is a perfect example. Like you ask for a Q-tip, everybody knows what you want. If
Yeah.
you ask for I don't even know what they're called.
Or Band-Aid. You
Right.
ask for an adhesive strip. What the heck?
So when we're discussing TTRPGs, there's a lot of reference back to Dungeons and Dragons. Dungeons and Dragons is not a perfect system, and even a quote-unquote perfect or better system isn't going to be able to fit every type of game you're trying to play. But one of the great imperfections of Dungeons and Dragons is the fact that you're stuck just I roll to attack. I roll to attack. I roll to attack.
This
Oh,
is
look, I
especially
leveled up.
bad.
I get an extra attack. So that means I get to roll more.
And it's especially bad for fighters and barbarians. Martial classes in general, but fighters and barbarians especially just... Now, 5e's done some fun stuff with, like, Battle Master fighters are pretty fun. Like, I'm not gonna lie, they're pretty fun. However, Pathfinder 2e, it can be argued, and in fact, many people who make the switch feel like the melee class, the martial classes, might actually be a little stronger than the magic users.
And damage output is cool. Like, bonk. Everybody likes to bonk things. Everybody like big numbers. That's why in MMORPGs, the number scale get ridiculous because everybody likes to see bigger numbers. Like when I last played World of Warcraft in a very long time ago. God, that game's been around a long time. Like you would hit something for like 2 million damage or something ridiculous like that, and it's like that's at some point it's just like it's extraneous big numbers.
Right. Well, okay, and so Ribbonanza asks, isn't hitting stuff kind of the point of that class's fantasy? And yes, you're not wrong, hitting stuff, but like there are ways that hitting stuff is fun, and there are ways where it's like, well, now I'm in combat, so I'm just gonna hit, right? I haven't played a rogue in over a year now. Well, maybe not quite, because I did that 3-shot horror campaign, but yeah. I love playing rogues. Rogues are like my, put them in my vein. Rogues are my comfort class, right? I love playing a rogue. And part of why it's fun playing rogue is I often play rogues who hit with daggers, and that's a 1d4 of damage, and that's not a freaking lot.
No.
But if I can play a rogue who gets sneak attack, well then it's my measly 1d4 plus 2 or 3 or 6 d6s of sneak attack damage on top. But that doesn't happen automatically. I have to think and work to make that happen. And that's part of what makes rogues fun for me, is they're versatile and I can play each one a little bit different. I played a cowardly changeling rogue who got scared, and as a reaction I'd roll a d8 and they would just turn into someone else in the party or the thing they were fighting. That's different than, it's my turn. What are my options? Oh, I hit the thing. Like, if it's a combat session, you're just kind of there to push the hit button. Just like, I bonk it. Okay. Wizard does a cool thing. Rogue hides and then pops out. You know, Warlock has a whole argument with their patron to make sure they can cast the spell. Barbarian hits.
So, yes, on like the surface, the power fantasy of the barbarian is barbarian go bonk, but it's less that, and it's more a immunity to things. It's more of things are happening to you and you're shrugging them off because you're so singularly focused. Um, and there's this dynamicness that you don't get with both rules as written and with just sort of like the what's the best way to describe it besides saying it's boring?
Repetitiveness.
Right.
The repetition.
Because what you can do in a practical sense to impact the battlefield is extremely limited, partly because you can't move. Because you move and you incur an attack of opportunity, and then you try to go somewhere, and everything that you walk past you give them an attack of opportunity. So if you have 20 kobolds on a battlefield, then and you want to get 30 feet away, which is your movement speed, there's a chance that you're having 6 different kobolds take swipes at you on your way. And Pathfinder's different approach to combat and its action economy does 2 major things. One, it allows you to move around the battlefield because you don't get infinite reactions, and your reaction has multiple purposes. So you can't always blow it on an attack of opportunity. In addition to that, you get more stuff that you can do, and you're encouraged to do those things because of decreased weapon accuracy over the course of your 3 actions. And if anyone watched Exandria Unlimited, and
Which one? There's been a couple now.
the
With
one
Abria?
with yes,
Yeah.
with the dude who looks like Anderson Cooper. I'm not wrong. One, it's not exact, but they're in the same family. They're in the same family tree. But his character is a fighter, and it's like sword and board, and
He means Liam O'Brien for anyone.
yeah, that one, Liam Bryan.
Do you know he and I used to shop for comics together? You'd be nice to him.
Listen, Anderson Cooper's great, okay? He's a handsome dude, got a handsome husband, got kids. He's doing great. He gets to play the straight man on New Year's Eve with, I think it's like Kathy Griffith, who's there just getting increasingly drunk over the course of like...
Yeah.
That's a whole different thing. Anyway, but Abria's asking him, hey, what do you do? And really sort of emphasizing the flavor of it. And so he's doing all these cool things. He's jumping off of stuff. But in Rules as Written 5e, you actually can't do that stuff. Andy Cohen.
Oh, Andy Cohen has replaced Anderson Cooper, apparently. Pathfinder 2 has breadth and depth, and not just in building your character, but also in game mechanics, how they work. Map, you're pretty much encouraged to switch things up. Demoralize. Yes, demoralize. We're going to talk about demoralize, David, because demoralize is really cool.
Demoralize is going to be a problem.
Wait until you learn about... Wait until I talk to you about aid. Aid is really cool.
But, in our home game and in other games we've played, like Kay will go, okay, I want to grab somebody and hold them while somebody else wails on them because it puts them at disadvantage. you get a spike of activity, and it's something besides just like, you know, you go bonk. And when you really dig into the mechanics of 5e, it's really hard to come up with those cool things. And there are so many checks that need to happen that slow things. Like at one point, we had a fight where the bad guy grabs a character and then tackles them to the ground and then tries to attack them on the ground. And it was like 6 different checks.
He couldn't do a darn thing. And then he got he got our squishy rogue and just one hit KO'd our squishy rogue after our warlock survived like 6 rounds. And then my character killed him while trying to heal him. It was a problem. Killed the rogue. Killed our teammate. Fortunately, I had an inspiration, or else we were going to go full Broken Oath.
Yes. That was but in Pathfinder, you have so much more flexibility in how you use your extra actions. Like,
well, let's break it down. Let's like really, because it's not even that you have extra actions, it's that you have 3 actions including your movement. Your movement counts as an action. That makes a really big difference when it's, you know, when there's a team of 4 and you're all going to fight one big bad monster, right? There's 4 of you wailing on a T-Rex. You each have 3 actions. And the T-Rex, let's just be generous. The T-Rex has 4, let's say, because they're a big bad, so they get an extra. If you move away from said T-Rex and T-Rex has to move, they get 1 less attack. And that makes a huge difference to your party. Your party healer can be a rogue or an investigator. The party doesn't really suffer for it. Build diversity is great in Pathfinder 2e. Yeah.
Yeah, like because of all the feats, because you can go through the rule book and go, okay, all the stuff I can do is pretty standard. I can stand, I can step, I can strike, I can take cover, I can ready an action, I can interact with a thing, I could crawl, etc. But when you dig into the feats and you can substitute 1 or 2 or 3 of those actions for a feat, then all of a sudden you get the ability to use your healer's kit on someone that's hurt. You get to trip people. You get to I was reading through the ancestries and backgrounds, and there's a rock dwarf thing where you could just go, you're not standing in that place anymore, and you just move them out of the way, and whoever whatever up to I think 2 sizes above pushes them back regardless of what's behind them. So it's like, Sparta this is kick. Oh no.
And that's one of the really cool and interesting things that Pathfinder 2nd edition does, is that it is less about your individual character's build. It is more about how your group as a team comes together and tackles challenges and plans. Like, a lot of times in 5e, because let's be honest, 5e combat is pretty basic. You surround them with your frontliners and you bonk them, and your backliners stand back and throw magic or throw arrows at them until they're dead. So there's generally a lot of like, hey Kiras, there's generally a lot of like, no, play your character, don't metagame too much, don't talk strategy too much, because let's just be fair, that's unfair to the dungeon master at that point. In Pathfinder, you basically have to all strategize because there was a great example that I was reading up on, and it's like, okay, there's a great big boss monster that is here. The fighter has been tanking this whole time and is dead, like has died, is knocked out, is at 0 HP. Has come back, has restored themselves. But when they stand up, standing up is going to provoke an attack of opportunity from that boss, which is going to bring them back down. So now the rest of the party's like, okay, what do we do? And someone else is like, I'm going to go up, I'm going to bonk the thing, and then I'm going to run away to take that attack of opportunity. So the fighter delays their turn until after that person. So then that person takes the hit, loses hit points, but also was at full hit points, so can absolutely take it. Now the fighter is able to stand up and do 2 attacks hitting this monster, bringing its hit points down significantly. Then cleric pops up and heals. Like, you have to start doing some of that because Pathfinder is literally built around the battles, around each encounter, as opposed to... That's one of the... I think we discussed it here a little bit, David. One of the frustrations that my GM in my Starfinder game has is Starfinder, it's really hard to bring people down. Everyone has hit points, plus stamina, short rests to regain a bunch of stuff, and it's like, in order for these battles to actually be meaningful and scary, I gotta be real mean. Or we've got to have like 5 combats in a row, and especially for a podcast, you don't want to listen to 5 combats back to back to back to back to back. Pathfinder makes it very easy to be like, here's a contained thing, but also your short rest isn't, even your long rest isn't necessarily going to heal you back to 100% unless you invest some resources. So it's easier, like it makes it feel higher stakes. Pathfinder 2e actual plays and modules are balanced, assuming you're using effective team strategy and tactics. If everyone lone wolves, you're going to have a bad time. Yes. And at some point, David, we're going to dive deep into hero points because I am still learning more about hero points. But basically, hero points are inspiration.
But more than inspiration.
Well, they let you reroll, but also if you are dying, you can use a hero point for free to stabilize. And it is expected, everyone starts the session with a hero point. And it is expected anytime you do something even halfway remotely cool, the GM is expected to be like, cool, you got a hero point for that. Well done. Which allows you to take more risks, which is pretty cool. But I also want to talk about reactions. Do your thing, and then we're going to talk about reactions.
So... one thing that this ties into Pathfinder. So 5e already has martial combat that is limiting. You can't move around a whole bunch. You don't have that wide an array of actions to do besides bonk. And as you increase in power, the casters vastly outstrip not just the damage potential, but the ability to control a battlefield than, a martial character. Because like a fighter is like a bonk real good, and a wizard is like, I bring souls back from the dead. I have comet materia.
Yeah, I drop a moon on all of you.
Right. And the other problem that I really don't see that many people talk about as like, I'm not going to say dumb, but dumb and unoptimal, is that 5e expects you to have like 6 encounters a day. And that's just too much paperwork.
It makes sense. It makes sense when you imagine it coming from the meat grinder dungeon crawl. We're not storytelling. We meet outside our adventure starts in the entryway of the dungeon, where we're going to go and kill everything in our path and get a load of treasure and a princess at the end. And the princess is going to marry one of us. And
Gross.
yeah, that's
The princess is in
game.
another castle. Okay.
Yes, most definitely.
She's with King Koopa, making more Koopa kid. Okay. I'm not gonna go on that rant. But of course Nintendo would give us a primordial monster fucker. No. Again, not a rant I'm gonna go. But okay, so let's take a dungeon crawl. Like, let's say your party's level 5, which means that you can fight a CR5 monster. Or some amalgamation of monsters that end up. I'm really trying not to think about Bowser and Candace, but for anyone watching on YouTube, Candace says Bowser can get it, which and so a level 5 a CR5 monster, or an amalgamation of monsters that add up to 5. If you throw 6 of those encounters at someone in a day, they immediately level up. Like, you wake up in the morning, you commit genocide over the course of the day, and then you wake up the next day and you are stronger. And that's fine and dandy, but so, like, you know, in our home game, or in like Godplane. Godplane's a great example. Godplane, every episode had some sort of encounter, whether it was an interpersonal encounter, a combat encounter, some sort of puzzle or trap, or some sort of goal, and those things,
or some sort of no. Look inside your soul.
Yes.
Face your inner demons. Right here, live on screen.
Those yield the highest XP, and highest emotional damage. But over the course of 8 to 10 episodes of Godplane, you get 2 levels worth of XP from, I think it's like, we either do 5 to 7 or 6 to 8, I don't remember. But that's with like one major encounter every session. So if you're doing 6 encounters, for one, again, boring. Like, you sit down to play D&D for 3 or 4 hours, and you got to do 6 combats, like, or you do like 4 combats and it's 2 in the afternoon. So what happens to that party in a longer form campaign after 6 weeks? You got a bunch of level 20s running around trying to fight God, and trying to blow up a castle with their bare hands. And
at that point, not trying to, just accomplishing.
Yeah, just you're knocking over kingdoms like kicking over a sandcastle on the beach. And it just doesn't make sense in not even a real world, but like even in like a fantasy thing where you go from, you know, I'm just a boy, I'm just a girl,
I'm a farmer.
I'm a farmer.
What's this here sword thing?
Like, you know, I am a moisture farmer who drinks blue milk, to I am doing battle with the Emperor of the Galaxy. That doesn't happen in 6 weeks. And it's always like bothered me, because it's so fast.
Yeah.
And so with Pathfinder, at least, and I've got more reading to do, but I really feel like nothing I have read so far says to me, yo, you got to run 6 combat encounters in a day.
Yeah.
Looks like I missed some comments. 741 says, in the long ago, back in AD&D, oh my God, second edition, where this mindset stems from, the DM was the enemy.
Yep.
Tomb of Horrors, White Plume Mountain, Ravenloft, the original White Ravenloft. It was you against them. And apparently, I've never played a Dragon Quest game. I've never been forced to marry against my will.
Look, I stand Dragon Quest big time. Dragon Quest is... You need to play Dragon Quest 11, if only because you play through the game and it's like beautifully... it is a beautiful game. It is... and it's the artist who does all the Dragon Ball Z art. I can't remember his name. It's a beautiful game. It gets a little uncanny valley for me at times. Beautiful game. You reach a point in the game and it's like, oh, by the way, do you want to play the rest of this game in pixel sprites? Because you can. We made it so you can play the entire game in 2D pixel sprites with a retro. We made chiptune versions of all of our music, and you can play the game in that.
That's really cool. That's really
also
really cool.
Dragon Quest 11 has one of the coolest features in the world. When you start the game, you can make it so that NPCs will give you misinformation. NPCs will be like, yeah, if you go behind that waterfall, there's a treasure chest, and there's not.
I would fist fight this game. Like, I would pull it out of the machine, go out in the front lawn, and throw hands with this machine. Whew.
It is so good because you're like, cool, I'm going to go do the... Aww. And then you go back and you're like, NPC, I'm going to fight you. NPC's like, I told you it was a rumor. Like, I'm just a farmer. Why would I know if there's a thing behind it? That's just...
No, you were a farmer.
But yeah. Yeah, I have never liked... Like, look, David knows. I will, in good humor... get all adversarial with my GM in the right condition. Like, oh, is that what you're going to do? Early on in my Starfinder game, an Emergency Power podcast, please check out the Emergency Power podcast if you have not. Early on, I joined the thing. I'm a Solarian. Solarians are a Jedi meets Paladin. Okay. A charisma-based class, and they have like a moat of either light or darkness that circles their head, and they can grab that moat and it turns into either a weapon or armor. So they are never without a weapon and or armor. And if you have a weapon, only the Solarian can handle and or manipulate it. I cannot be disarmed. None of this could happen. So we're fighting one of the early fights with this new character, and we're fighting these horrible things from the abyss, and this horrible abomination monstrosity monster like looks at, and my GM's like, it looks at that fancy blade of yours, and I'm like, uh-huh. And he's like, and darkness starts to gather around the blade. And I'm like, uh-huh.
Yep.
And our resident rules lawyer is like, actually, I'm like, no, shut up. Let him finish. Let him finish.
Let it go.
Let him finish. And then, we dive into the rules lawyer of no one else can manipulate this weapon. And GM starts reading and gets to the end of the spell, and it's like, manufactured weapon. That's not a manufactured weapon. And it's like, and literally... nothing and no one other than me can manipulate my Solarian weapon. Do you know why? Because I'm special.
Right.
And GM's like, yeah, this monster wouldn't know that. If I didn't know that, this thing that barely has a mind wouldn't either. And like, what? I will absolutely... What was the moment, David, when I'm like, I'm going to make holy water? So for those of you who don't know, in our home game, I play a paladin of the Flying Spaghetti Monster. And I reached the level where I could cast Bless. But to use Bless, you need holy water. And I do like to play around with spell components. I have fun with that. And I'm like, in our downtime, I'm gonna make some holy water. And David's like, oh yeah? How you gonna make holy water? How you gonna do that? And I'm like, I'll tell you how I'm gonna do that. He's like, oh yeah, how you gonna do that? And I'm like, I'm gonna boil pasta.
Pain.
I apologize. Manhattan is very loud. So I love throwing down with the GM and getting a little adversarial, but all in good nature and good jest. Candace played with us in Godplane. For those of you who don't know, Godplane was an 8-part horror campaign that David and I ran. I've run it twice now. The most recent one with Candace is probably one of the things I am most proud of. And I was mean. We were very, very mean to characters for the purpose of growth. And we built all of that with the concept, with the understanding that our lines and veils were very strong. We had guardrails. People could tell us to back off and nope out at any time. Like, we were very open and transparent about this is going to be difficult, but also it should not be so difficult that you are uncomfortable, unhappy, whatever. We put people in
an anonymous Google form where it's like, listen, if you want to talk trash about us and you don't want us to know it's you,
have at. So we put people in very uncomfortable, very challenging situations with the understanding that they could pull the ripcord at any time, and also not just to be a mean GM, but so their characters could grow very quickly in 8 episodes, because we had 8 episodes to tell an entire thing with one of the pillars of the series was redemption. That means some characters got to go through some trials and come out the other side a better person. So we had 8 episodes to tell the whole epic story, plus meet the characters, plus get them through a redemption arc. So, I hate I'm the GM and it's my job to kill you. Now, in a fight, oh heck yeah, am I going to be like, oh yeah, we're doing combat today. Hang on to your butts, right? I'm coming for you. David's made something real mean and I'm going to run it as mean as I can. But everyone also knows that I really like their characters. And I really don't want, if these characters died, I would be just as distraught as the players that the character is dead. So I don't like that. I think you should be able to playfully be like, oh yeah, I'm going to murder everyone today. But if people don't know, if there's not a deep, fundamental understanding that that is a joke, and or if that happens, the GM will also be distraught. Right. I wouldn't want to play at that table, personally. Now, if it's a meat grinder game, if it's like roll up 6 characters.
And then roll up 6 more because the first 6 are going to die.
Right. That's a different conversation.
And my approach to designing combat encounters is Dark Souls. And everybody goes Dark Souls super hard, yada yada yada. But it is when you walk into a boss fight or you wander into an area and you die, it's always your fault. It's always like, I didn't manage my resources well, I overextended, I didn't have enough sippy cup left to walk into this boss fight. And so when I design something, I want you to go into it knowing if I do what I'm supposed to do and the dice don't completely screw me, then I have a good chance to come out on top, because your characters aren't going to be the sorts of character, or like, they're not going to go and pick a fight with God if they don't think they can win. Mm-hmm. Like, you look out and see an army, or like see a horde of zombies, and then you go, all right, let's do this. And like, you go out there, there's this expectation that, oh, I have a chance to win against these odds.
This is actually just Google Captions. We are on a Google Meets call, and these are the captions from Google Meets. And yeah, I've been very impressed with them. Whenever I run full TTRPGs with more than 2 people, then I definitely spring to get the thing. I have also used Pixiv.tv, which is, I don't think, quite as good, but it is free to use. And it also uses the Google Captions AI.
So that means Google knows all of the Pokemon.
Yes, this is what's really cool. Charizard, Pikachu, Blastoise, Bulbasaur. It is Venusaur? Question mark. Google really knows Pokemon. Rowlet, does it know the new ones? It knows Rowlet. Wow, that's impressive. But yeah, Google Captions is actually some of the best. But, David, reactions in Pathfinder.
Well, the Spaghetti Holy Water incident is actually a good segue for hero points.
Okay.
Because you got an inspiration for that. And I implemented a system that I adore and will be using from here on out, in that some of our characters, or some of our players, are really sort of like
Sassy.
boisterous. Yes. The fact that you had that just laying around. But half of our table really just conjures brain-breaking things on a regular basis, and the other half of our table
goes.
Yes. But is also like very focused, and so like they're not throwing like random stuff out. So there started to be this growing imbalance of inspiration. And then you also have like situations where like if you have a bigger table and one person misses and something happens and everybody gets inspiration, then that person misses out. Or you can't predict what that person might have done over the course of that session that might have. So instead of giving inspiration points to individuals and being very sort of like tight-fisted with them, there's a pool now where everybody at the table, you get an inspiration, it goes into the pool, and then everybody at the table can use the inspiration from the pool. The pool so far has been dedicated to keeping our rogue alive, but it feeds into the interplay between the characters and the ideas they come up with, because there is a bigger communal reward when everybody works together to make my brain short circuit. And inspiration is sort of kind of really limited in 5e, because it's basically like, oops, re-roll that. Like that die didn't land on the table, rolled off the table and onto the floor. You get to re-roll it. Hero points are far more dynamic, and I find myself saying that word about Pathfinder in comparison to D&D way more often. Hero points are way more dynamic in the things that it can do and in the ways that hero points manipulates gameplay.
Also, one of my favorite things about our inspiration pool is I started not just keeping track of the inspiration pool, but making notes about why we got the inspiration. Yep. So we have things like Valisa's nipple. Valisa's nipple again. Valisa's hairy nipple. Vita's outfit. Dwarf chode. Roxy connects dots. Bag of colding. And then you eat your god's blood, ? These are just some of the things on this list. And then when we're like, how many do we have? Does anyone mind if can I use an inspiration? Does anyone care? It's like, yes, you get the coin trap dodged. inspiration. And then we're all like, what the heck was that? And then we relive a great moment.
Yes.
As David said, I am the note keeper.
Yep.
I'm the note taker for
Absolutely.
our table. Again, this is why I'm a good GM. But yes, hero points let you re-roll things. And God, if we had hero points in Starfinder, in the Starfinder game, we had a character death in our Starfinder podcast, and a hero point would have massively changed that. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
And I also like that the game just issues you one. Because, like, I really feel like inspiration in Dungeons and Dragons is like this tacked on thing. Where it's like, yeah, you can do this. You could not do this. But in Pathfinder, it's like, oh, you roll up a character, boom, you got one.
Well, and I feel like Dungeons and Dragons is starting to steal that from Pathfinder. Because one of the things they've been testing in the Unearthed Arcana is they're like, oh, well, humans are versatile and not optimistic, resilient. Humans are the resilient. Yeah. So if you're a human character, you start every day with an inspiration point. And it's like,
boo. Boo.
And here's the thing. Too many get out of jail free cards suck. But having the knowledge that, you know what? I'm going to do the dumb thing. I can try this risky thing because I have a get out of jail free card actually gives you a lot more fun storytelling. Allows you to take more risks and potentially do the dumb thing. Saucefire, welcome on in.
Takes one to know one, Sauce. Also, Saucefire has been Saucefire has is Mercy Road officially announced?
There's a
There
teaser
were tweets
up.
about it.
There's a teaser for Mercy Road. There's a teaser for Keep Your Eye Out. Unless Saucefire wants to say something more. Really nice and fun RP potential quality of life thing for Pathfinder 2A does is the undead archetypes. If you die, your DM can let you come back at a cost. ... There's the teaser.
Mm-hmm. Look at the detail on that.
Isn't it incredible? Saucefire works with some really talented people. Who knew?
Mm-hmm.
Who knew?
Oh, is that a
The almost
Yep.
birthday boy is here. Say hi, Gilmore. But one of the things that I really enjoy about Pathfinders, now look, the 3-action economy is just really, really cool because you talked about this earlier, where you can get up on a thing and just attack 3 times. You can do that. Anyone can do that. But every time you attack... Oh. I have to play with the kitten while we do this, or else kitten will eat all of the feathers, and then I go to the vet.
Yikes.
By the time you get to your 3rd attack, especially in the early levels, you're taking, like, I think it's a -8 penalty.
Yeah, it's pretty severe.
So it actually kind of, that encourages you to do something else with your 3rd action. Be that run away so that the big bad might chase you. Be that try to recall knowledge. And rules as written, you don't get a whole lot. But I think most GMs, if you're spending one of your actions to be like, what do I know about this? Can I think about it? And you roll well, they're probably going to give you useful things. Also, one of the cool things that it does is, it's less about DPS. It's less about how much damage can you output and more about how do you play together in an intelligent way. So, but yeah, that 3-action economy just gives you a lot. And one of the cool things is in 5e, my swinging a sword and a wizard casting a spell takes the same amount of time. Not true in Pathfinder, because most of the actual powerful spells cost 2 actions. So a martial class can hit twice in the same amount of time it takes a wizard to cast a spell. So, no, you might not have a huge AoE, but you are a dedicated single target damage machine. Oh my goodness, Kitten is just ripping everything down. But one of the really, really neat things is Pathfinder has so many more options for your reaction rather than just an attack of opportunity. One of the really interesting ones is Arrest to Fall. And if you fall, you can use your reaction, if you have a fly speed, to not take damage, which is very cool. But we talked about how this is a lot of it depends on your team. It's very team-based. It's very work together, think about it. You can use your reaction to aid a teammate, which is so freaking cool and something that I would have loved to do so many times in D&D. And actually just in Starfinder. I was playing not my main Starfinder game, but I was playing a Starfinder game. More on that later. And several of our characters didn't have their weapons and couldn't really do much. But several of us were grappled. So characters without weapons, if they'd been able to use their reaction to aid, you can attempt to aid them. The bonus is a +3. And oh my god, that could have made such a difference. Such a difference. It's likely intentional, but at low level, it's frustrating as a spellcaster seeing fighters take multiple attacks when you could just do one thing, move, aid, etc. At least at a high level, you can look forward to blowing up the sun. Yeah, I've definitely heard that people who mainly play caster classes get into Pathfinder and they're like, I'm so weak. But I think, and again, I'm going to say this, I know this is technically not rules as written, but if you as a spellcaster are like, okay, I cast a spell, and then I'm again sorry for the sirens, I cast a spell, and then I'm going to use my third action to try and recall information. And I'm going to try to think about what's this monster's resistances. As a GM, I would absolutely be like, their lowest save is a fortitude. So that way you then, as a spellcaster, can start looking at your spells and be like, I'm going to cast the one that requires a fort save as opposed to a will save, because that's going to make me more effective that way. I've been doing more lore rolls as my remaining action, though my GM is more rules as written. That's I can understand the arguments for both, but that's how I would want to. That's how I personally would want to do it. Not that I'm planning on running Pathfinder anytime soon.
Counterpoint. Yes. It kind of sucks that you conjure up a spell and throw the spell and it takes up 2/3 of your actions. But in 5e, at level 1, I think it's up to level 6. You do one thing. You only do one thing. And if you are a rogue or a paladin or a warlock, it's just okay, I've done my thing and now I can move, except if I'm up on something, then I can. But if you are a caster in Pathfinder, so in D&D, especially if you know you're going to get a rest, a short rest or a long rest, or you've built your character where you have the more powerful cantrips. Like what's the one where it's like it's a fire spell, it's 1d10.
Yeah, or Toll the Dead for Grave Domain.
Right. Eldritch Blast, need I say more? In Pathfinder, like in Pathfinder, it's not a waste to do other things with those 3 moves. Like, you can aid, you can move around the battlefield, you can change your sight lines, you can attack with a weapon, you could be somewhere, attack with a ranged weapon, and then cast a spell, or vice versa. Like, you have so much more option in what you can do at low levels than you do in 5e, because in 5e it's just like, okay, I've cast my spell. I could move, but why would I? So my turn's over.
It is still completely valid to be like, they're hitting
absolutely.
twice, and I'm just. There are also a ton of single action spells: Avatar, Heal, Harm, Jump, True Strike, True Target. I'm not even going to attempt that one. Guidance, Bard, cantrips, and there are more. So you could magic missile something, shield yourself, and then True Strike the fighter. Yeah, I really enjoy the amount of focus that Pathfinder puts on working as a team. Because, like, we were talking about our home game where, I play a paladin with the grappler feat. And even with the grappler feat, it's not that great. And we have a dwarf who does spin attacks with two swords. And even pulling it together, we do it mostly for LOLs as opposed to it actually being a truly viable thing where my character will grab and grapple a baddie and then shout, and then the dwarf will come over and wail on the other one. And honestly, it's a little bit of a waste of a turn because he's a fighter, so his hit is so high. But it's so fun and in character that we want to do it. And in Pathfinder, I feel like that would actually reward us more. I haven't looked up these exact things.
What's Gilmore's looking at something.
Oh, this. They can't see Gilmore. The cameras are zoomed in enough. So.
Ah.
I have a Fluffy in my hand, and he wants to kill everything. Like, don't let these eyes fool you. Those aren't sleepy. Those are murder. Those are so.
It's funny because every time you pick him up, he's like, "Oh, it's sleepy time now."
Yeah, no. That is murder. Yeah, I absolutely, in the one Pathfinder 2e one shot I got to play in, I absolutely saved today with a 3-action AoE heal. Put myself in position the turn before. Everyone's like, oh no, we're doomed, there's no way we're gonna do this. And I'm like, I got this. And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, I got this. 3-action AoE heal, 6 creatures. Bam! I think that's part of what's fun about my granted limited experiences with Pathfinder 2e, is it really lets you feel clever. It really gives you the opportunities to feel very, very clever. And again, it's interesting and exciting for me to play in a system that encourages you to strategize outside of combat. You're not just planning your own move. It's like, what are you doing? How can I help? Okay, well, the rogue cannot get sneak attack unless this baddie is flat-footed. How can I do this? How can I flank? Should I use a trip attack? Instead of doing a physical attack, instead of bonking him with the sword, should I try and use my strength to trip this baddie? Because then the rogue will get sneak attack damage, and if he's prone, and I believe, oh, David, this is what's real scary about rogues in Pathfinder 2e. I believe that if a monster is prone, the rogue can get sneak attack on both attacks.
Yikes.
Real yikes. Real yikes. I want to play a rogue again.
Wait. So that means that if you are wielding a weapon that has trip, you can knock somebody down and then get 2 sneak attacks in the same round. That's problematic.
Our monk trips everything, even things without legs. It's become a running thing.
All right, you're fighting a beholder. You're standing in the anti-magic cone. Okay, I trip it. It's like, It's like I said what I said.
I have a kitten climbing my leg. That's great. Awesome. I love you, Gilmore.
I'd have to really think about how, because, because it makes, so, if you have, a flying creature, it makes sense. If you have, a raven or something, and you hook something around one of its feet and yank, then it's going to be tripped. But things that, float...
I'm sure there are things that are immune to it. Well, because there's lots of things that can be immune to prone.
Right.
We had stuff in Godplane that was immune to prone.
Including a beholder.
But keep in mind, David, it actually gets worse because in Pathfinder, standing up is an action. So if you knock a monster prone, that takes away one of its attacks because it has to stand up. But also standing up provokes an attack of opportunity in Pathfinder.
Oh boy. So yeah, you could just get the hell beat out of you if you go down. Mm-hmm. That's bad.
741. I had a player that had me help them build a full support rogue. It was a scarf dancer concept. They used a bladed scarf to trip, demoralize with intimidating glare. Fluffed is whirling around and using the scarf to make them flinch. Feint and sabotage to break items. It was fun to watch how they could manipulate the battlefield with no spells and dictate the course of battle by dancing. That's really cool. I've always, Dave and I were just talking about Octopath Traveler before this, and, I've always loved, especially in, Square games and Final Fantasy games, the dancer class, but I'm also what? That's the one thing Octopath Traveler did nicely, is was it Octopath Traveler? Yeah, if you turned the dudes into dancers, they were also in the same little high-slitted waist with a little veil over their faces, and it's okay, at least you're equal opportunity. I appreciate this. Pretty sure she tripped an ooze.
That is high quality.
Yeah, look, it's always real fun. I without saying too much, in my Starfinder game, I play a Solarian. And I ended up playing in a Starfinder game with my GM. My GM was a player. And we ended up fighting a Solarian. And I'm looking at my GM I'm real sorry. Being on this side of this really sucks. I hadn't thought about how much it would suck to fight me until I had to fight me. And I'm real sorry.
I had a thought.
Yeah, where did it go, David?
And it's gone. Was it demoralize? Yes.
Demoralize.
So, demoralize is a problem because I specialize in insults, biting insults, and so if it's just you get on the battlefield and if you roast someone enough, they're going to have a bad time.
Look,
both as a player and a GM.
Oh, David. Okay, I play a home game in which I have my Himbo Bard. Ask me about my Himbo Bard. I have, and he's very wholesome, right? But also has vicious mockery. And I have a literal spreadsheet of vicious mockery insults. And David surprised me. David sneak attacked his way into this game. So David is observing how we're weaving this Wild Beyond the Witchlight into our... And the next thing I know, David's damn character is there. But David hasn't experienced my vicious mockery yet. But let me tell you, David, you're going to be very excited. This is the idiot. We were fighting a lizard folk. And my idiot himbo bard vicious mockeries this lizard folk by saying, "Your mother was a lizard."
Ooh, bonk. That's a rolled up newspaper, just bonk.
Which results in the lizard folk being like,
Huh?
"Yes, she is that a bad? Should I, what?"
Yeah.
But demoralized, David.
Now, is this something anyone can, let me check the book. Is this something anyone could do?
It's an intimidation roll. Why does that make me feel bad? Question mark.
Right.
What's funny too is we didn't kill the lizard man. Like we fought until there was like lizard man surrendered. The lizard man like, you said that about my mom. Is that a bad thing? And my character has to be like, no, it was just because vicious mockery, while it does hurt, it also causes disadvantage. And I'm more doing it for the disadvantage than the like 1d6 of damage. It's like, no, it was just supposed to distract. It distracted that it did, but no, I'm sure she's lovely. I really should have said your mother was a mammal, shouldn't I? Huh.
Woof.
That would have been the better insult for you, wouldn't it? Rex! Welcome on in. My lore bard mocked a werewolf to death because it counts as magic damage. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Listen, back in the day on the schoolyard, more than one person has said recess isn't over until a fist fight is broken out. Like, the unspeakable things that like fourth graders say to each other in the 20 minutes that they're allowed to be outside.
Look, bards are so much fun because you can play them so weird and wonderful if you want to. So, Himbo Bard, like 2 fights later, we're fighting this big bad with a bunch of minions all around, and we're like on a little thing, and so all the minions are like separated by water, but plunking arrows at us. So my Himbo Bard decides to just commit a war crime and cast heat metal on the breastplate that the big bad is wearing. Walks around the corner and lays down prone. Because now there's disadvantage to everyone plunking arrows at him, and he has to maintain concentration on the spell. But every round is a bonus action, or I forget, just gets to... There's not even a save at that point. It's just like 3d6 fire damage. And it's just laying down, like, bardic inspirationing teammates while burning this guy alive inside of it. It's great. It's just great. Bards learn to weaponize the dozens early.
Okay, so spellcasting in both 5e and Pathfinder, you need vocal, somatic, and material component. But is there anything that says that you have to be standing up? So, like, you can, like, lay on the ground making snow angels and cast fireball.
Mm-hmm.
There are some spells where it's, like, occasionally where it's, like, thing you can
There's some
see.
touch. Yeah.
But, if you're laying in sniper position...
Like, you want to be careful laying in sniper position because then anything that hits you has advantage, right? If you're prone, melee attacks have advantage. But there were, like, 2... Like, the giant paladin tiefling was standing between me and the bad guy, and it was like a 5 foot, so we would have to drop and then step over the tiefling. So it's like, no, I'm just gonna lay my skinny butt down and just taunt you from here. Ha ha!
There are so many things that I want to do with spellcasting, and I've just added another one.
Oh, you want to play a spell sniper?
Well, it's more for the project. But
I shall taunt you a second time. Yes.
right, like
No. Think. You get a wizard who has an expertise in stealth and hiding. And so you go, you lay prone, you hide, and then you just start fucking casting magic from your hiding spot.
that's real dangerous. There are multiple fantasy books I've written where they have like batteries of battle mages that like go out onto the battlefield lined up like they're like post-Victorian um, musketeers,
Mm-hmm.
like throwing spells and whatnot, and it's like, why? You could just ghillie suit up and just sneak up at the spells.
Take it a step further. Use your familiar's eyes, lay down, point a finger over cover, and sight down your raven's nose.
Yeah.
I believe
So
can't
start blasting.
in Pathfinder, can't you cast through your familiar? I need to look that up. I feel like I read that. JD says after being tripped and taking several attacks of opportunity, Pipsqueak totally went invisible. And then hid under a table. Yeah. Definitely been there. We had... Oh, gods. In the Emergency Power Podcast, we had a thing happen. We had a character who, we'd gotten through a tough fight. This character was literally barely alive. Just barely alive. And actively did a thing that made a new NPC enter the space. And it was not entirely clear if new NPC was going to be hostile or not. And character, after actually causing the NPC to enter the scene, was like, I'm going back onto the ship and going to bed. And literally walked away, closed the door, and went to bed. Because had like 2 hit points. And if he'd stubbed his toe, would have died. Right? It was like, no, I'm going to bed. So the rest of us are dealing with the situation that this character created. While this character's like,
Like, nope.
I don't have the hit points for this. Good night. It was literally a go to your room and think about what you've done.
Also, another thing I like about Pathfinder is you don't necessarily get all your hit points back.
Yeah.
Because, like, you could be on the verge of being dismembered. Then you have a good nap and you're good.
Right.
Doesn't make sense at all. But, so, in one of the games that we had, there's a way to... Actually, no, in several games. Where you could imbue a fragile object with a spell. Like you cast a thing, and I'm just thinking about like Mage Hand. I'm thinking about like artificers who make bombs, artificers who make guns. The level of terrorism that like an insightful wizard and an artificer have, like, so like in real world history, there are these big watershed moments when it comes to not just combat but warfare. Like you have like they figure out how diseases spread, so they start catapulting diseased bodies over walls. There comes a point where walls are useless because they're just gonna bomb them because gunpowder. And like with the
what
evolution,
ended plate mail.
right? Like the evolution of armor meant that there was an evolution from slashing weapons to bludgeoning and piercing weapons, and so on and so on and so on. We have to give some real thought to how not just combat, but like warfare is conducted. Because like, like a bar fight is one thing. Like you're at a bar, you're drinking, there's a skinny twerp, he hits you with a demoralize, you're gonna punch his lights out. But when you knock that skinny twerp onto his back, and then he looks at you and says, I didn't ask how big the room is. I said I cast fireball.
Yeah. I know I nagged you. Did you ever read the Lightbringer series?
Give me a character name.
Gavin, Guile, Kip, Tia. So The Lightbringer is a series by Brandon Sanderson that is... I'm sorry, it's not Sanderson, it's Brent Weeks. Brent Weeks. It's a really cool series. Don't cast fireball on a ship. Yeah.
Or cast fireball on a ship and immediately win. It's a Pyrrhic victory, but you'll win.
Lightbringer. Okay, look, I love Lightbringer until the last 3 chapters. Lightbringer is excellent until the last 3 chapters. So you have that warning from me. I know not everyone agrees with me. Lightbringer is this really cool world and setting where magic is colors, and magic comes in different colors, and each color has its own properties. So blue is very logical, and people who use that, different people can only use certain colors of magic. So people who use blue tend to become very logical, and blue, when cast, blue magic becomes this very solid, hard material that's very good for building. Whereas oranges tend to be charming and slippery, and orange magic, when it takes a physical form, is slick and slippery and can be used for lubrication and things like that. Excuse me. The more you use magic, the more that color starts to influence your personality. And there's a whole thing. It's very cool. But the way their magic evolved is because it requires, you have to see the color to use it. So a lot of magic users run out wearing colored lenses. So if you cast a lot of blue magic, you have blue glasses. So everything looks blue, so you can pull that color and then cast it. And then there's groups of mage fighters called, I think it was the Mirror Guard, and they come out in bright reflective mirrors so that it bounces the magic off of them. So there's some fun things we could do with that. Brent Weeks does really cool world building. I love saying a thing and then watching David's wheels just
yeah, it's just there's so Kay and I are working on a thing to be announced in the future, and there are many wrinkles that, with anything, you want to not just give your own twist on things, but you also want to do something insightful that makes sense with everything. And there's some evolution of combat and warfare and history of things that now I have a lot of work to do.
Who's not going to sleep tonight? David.
Yeah. It's fine. I'll figure it out.
But we are nearing the 1.5 hour mark, which means it's probably about time that we wrap this up. We have so many awesome friends hanging out in chat today, and our new friend 741. Thank you all for coming, for hanging out. It has been a delight to see you all. We rambled a lot. Yeah, who needs sleep? Really? Who needs sleep? Do you all have any final questions or parting thoughts as we have rambled our way through some Pathfinder information? Thank you, JD, for hanging out. It is always a delight to see you. I am relatively certain I'm going to be streaming Pokemon this Thursday right here.
80% chance?
I mean, it's pretty high unless some stuff goes down. David, who is you, and what is we doing here?
Hi, I'm David. This is the Chaotic Wholesome Talk Show, where every week we talk about TTRPG stuff. Expect a lot more Pathfinder content in the near future, in the near and medium future, but all with a focus on intersectionality and inclusion.
And I'm Kay. I'm the other half of this. What is the airspeed velocity of an unladen hippoglyph? African or European? Or is that like, I guess, let's see, what would it be? Waterdeepian or Menagerie Coast is Critical Role. I'm grabbing for. I'm trying to reach. Initially I reached for names from our setting, and I'm like, nope, not doing that one. I mean, not that if you've watched any of our stuff, you know a couple of these names. Thyan, thank you. My mom called BRB. Have fun, Candace. Hi, Mom. Yeah, but I needed another location in the Forgotten Realms, and my brain just blanked. I went for our homebrew setting, and then I reached for Critical Role, and that's just where that went. Hi, I'm Kay. I'm the other half of this chaos, disaster, whatever it is. You can find me every other Wednesday over on the Emergency Power Podcast. That is a Faerunian. There we go. I like Faerunian. Faerunian or Waterdeepian? The Emergency Power Podcast is a Starfinder actual play that I really, really, really love and get to play one of my favorite outer space disaster queers. And they are going through some character growth right now. I joined in Season 3. There are lots of great recaps up if you would like to just jump in with Season 3, which is our current season. We have a few episodes left in this season, then we're going to be taking a little break and coming back with Season 4. But I thank you all for diving in there. You can also find me every third Wednesday. Which, yes, I know, that is just a little bit confusing. But you can find me every third Wednesday. The next appearance will be on the 8th over on the Initiative Order, where I'm playing Burton in Chalice, the Twilight Road. And that is a through the breach system where we use cards instead of dice to decide if stuff works. And that's just a good old time. Too complicated. That's what automated alerts are for. Yeah, basically. I go through and update everything in my I like my Google Calendar. I can't live without my Google Calendar. And then I update everything in my Discord. Because if you're not hanging out in the Cataclysm Discord, we welcome you to come join us. And David and I are here every Tuesday, just about. Next month might get a little bit complicated because I'm going through a move. But should be fine. And then you can find me here most Thursdays where I'm streaming video games. Sometimes Pokemon, sometimes Placid Plastic Duck Simulator in honor of Full Rubber Ducky, who is wonderful and bought it for me. And sometimes Stardew Valley, IDK. We're gonna see. David, did you know that there is a game called I Am Jesus Christ, which is a first-person Jesus simulator?
No, and I wish I could unknow that.
You cannot. Now you know.
I cannot. Now
It is.
I know.
It is in your brain.
It is there. And as soon as we get off, I'm going to Google it.
I need to get Wildflowers, which is like a witchy version of Dreamlight Valley. I am a rabid Disney hater. I used to work in copyright, and Disney made my life very difficult for many, many, many years. And I just do not like Disney, so I do not support anything Disney does, which is going to be a real problem when Disney starts putting out X-Men movies, because I'm an X-Men nerd, and that is going to be a problem for me, personally.
I live in Los Angeles, right by Burbank, and near enough to, it's not Irvine, wherever Disneyland is. And I also work and have worked in the entertainment industry, and everybody who's worked in the entertainment industry for long enough has a story about the mouse. I have several, none of which I'm going to get into on stream, but dear Mickey, I got a bone to pick, and that just because of the gloves and shoes.
Yes. If you enjoy Disney stuff, please enjoy it. But yeah, you will not find me playing things like Kingdom Hearts or Disney Dreamlight Valley, just because.
I won't play Kingdom Hearts just because it doesn't make any fucking sense. Listen, the flow chart.
Oh no, it started.
The flow chart
We're in
of
trouble.
the Kingdom Hearts series,
Brace.
and like the 27 games that they have, would at like the 26th game is Kingdom Hearts 3. No. Also, using a key as a weapon is dumb. The end. It's not that complicated. I don't believe you. You're gonna have to convince me.
So, on that delightful, can we find something more happy and positive to end this on? I don't want to end this on that note.
I'm still trying to figure out what's going on in Ohio. No.
Give us the Samurai Jack opening.
No, that's for special occasions.
Oh, can today be a special occasion?
But
Pokemon Direct next week. I'm excited about that.
Yeah, and Legend of the Dragoon is going to be available in the next PS Plus release, and available for purchase. And if you haven't played Legend of the Dragoon, because I'm 90% sure you haven't, because they sold 15 whole copies and I bought 2 of them. It's available. Oh, that's right, because it's the 21st. Stop what you're doing. Go play this game.
I would kick a very small puppy for a Final Fantasy Tactics remaster.
A medium-sized puppy.
All I want is Final Fantasy Tactics HD 2D. Octopath Traveler style Final Fantasy Tactics. Mwah. Mwah.
Mm-hmm.
It is so good. It is so good.
Yeah, and there's another game I want remastered, but I can't remember what it is, and that makes me feel sad. But the end. Also, Nintendo, just give us, just let us buy all your games. I wanna give you money to buy the games that definitely run on the current hardware you have.
Do you have Nintendo Switch Online?
Yes.
You know you can get like all the Game Boy games now.
Yes. However, Windwalker, Twilight Princess,
That's fair.
and there's at least one other Zelda game.
If we're going to talk Zelda rumors, did you hear the rumor, the theory? This is complete rumor, y'all. This is not a leak. I don't know if this is complete BS, but there's a fan theory that Tears of the Kingdom is a prequel to Breath of the Wild.
Ooh. That's spicy.
Look, Super Mario RPG, give me Give me that. Give it to me on decent hardware. I want it. I want it. I don't want any of this Mario, Luigi, paper, Bowser's Inside, Vor story. I don't want it. I want Super Mario RPG, The Legend of the Seven Stars on my Switch. Just put it there. Just put it there, Nintendo. Just put it there.
Nintendo just, they're leaving money on the table. Because here's the thing. They could release Twilight Princess, Wind Waker, and then remaster them.
They're just doing a Disney Vault thing. It's going to come out sooner or later.
And you know who's going to buy the remaster too? This guy.
And also, my boy Matt Mercer as Ganondorf.
Yeah.
Well done, Nintendo. Well done. Like, I was already going to get this thing, but now I will fight someone for it.
Oh, it's Medicine Misfits. Hi.
Hey, Matt, how are you doing? We are wrapping up. We got onto a little bit of an angry thing, so we're now just talking video games and hype for video games so that we didn't end on a bashing a company note.
Yep.
But thank you for coming by. It's great to see you. We talked a lot about Pathfinder 2e. Sorry, y'all. I need to clearly drink something hot because there's goobers in my throat, and I don't like it. Enjoying some dinner, lost in cooking tonight. Oh, that's fun. David, are you cooking today? Or not today?
Yes. I know I'm at least making fish. I don't know what I'm going to put inside my own body for dinner. I just know what I'm going to put in other people for dinner.
That is just rude. You should
It happens.
But all right, y'all. I think on that note, we are going to wrap up. Again, check out the Emergency Power Podcast if you have the time. I will, on the 8th, be over on the Initiative Order playing Burton. And if that name sounds familiar and you watch Carrie's Outbreak Undead, this is the same like base of a character. They're a little different in this setting, obviously, but Burton is good folk, and I would love for you to join their adventure. It's a horror game, so it's absolutely gonna just turn out great for them, no question. Her Imperial Majesty was appeased. That is excellent. Thank you all so much for hanging out. Thank you for joining the fun tonight. 741. I said 7 of 9 because we were talking about Star Trek earlier and my brain just auto-completed. Let's see. Who can we raid tonight? It's a Xander night, I do believe.
Yep. He is
Platonic or Xander?
Platonic.
Platonic. We will go visit Platonic. I'm going to flip us over to the end screen and start the raid. Thank you all again. You are wonderful. I hope I get to see you Thursday when I'm going to be playing some Pokemon. And until then, we'll see you real soon. Bye, y'all.